Hey, we're live, pal. We just got a visit. Andrew Zarian is here. We just got a visit from a young Zarian right before this show started. So I'm in a good mood. Got to see the young Zarian.
The youngest Zayn. You met him when you were here, right? You saw
Yes,
the
yes,
kids, I
for a
think.
short time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when you
Good.
came by the studio. That was fun that day.
Love the kids though. So, but tell me about the trick or treating. Like, how was it? I got 5 total trick or treaters the entire night.
So this is a new thing, right? Like when we were growing up, you're a little older than me, but it was the same. We were growing up, we would go trick-or-treating to people's homes. Nobody does that anymore. It's
Wow.
all it's trunk or treat, right? That's what you do on the weekend. You do a trunk or treat, which is okay for the kids. And then you visit stores, which is so bizarre to me. Is this universally like everywhere, or is this like a New York or like a major city thing? Because like I live in the suburbs,
Yeah, me
and
too.
it's still like that here. Like it's still very much like, oh, you go down like the main street and then you get the candy like that. I got probably like 7, 8 kids, and that was it.
Can you hear me? Because my camera may have gone out
Yes,
for a
I
little bit.
see. I
Okay,
hear you. There's a plus sign on your face.
yeah, let's keep the camera on Andrew as I try and figure out how to restart this thing. But okay,
Yeah.
so the scenario around here was homes. It was people going to homes, but so this has been our third Halloween here, and it's I think the first one, which was right around the pandemic time, we didn't get any, so there was none. Last year, I think we had 3, and I called the over under at 4.5 yesterday, and it was
Yeah.
4.5, so it was 5. So
Wow.
that's what it was. All right,
You know
all
what's
right.
funny? My mother-in-law had went through like 220 bags in like an hour and a half. And she lives in Long Island. So I mean, I guess it is like a New York thing, which I hate. I hate that. I want people coming to the house.
That is amazing. 200.
Yeah, 200
I,
bags she went through.
I can't even imagine. Like, just based on us trying to figure out if we could get enough candy for the kids. Like, I would have just assumed, okay, well, 1 bag. If we got more than that, we'd have been done
Yeah.
for, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. All right, so we might as well talk about some wrestling as my camera did make a comeback. Well, hopefully it
Hey,
sticks
hey,
around.
I got to ask you something. Dave
Yeah.
messed up the room already?
Yeah. That would be crazy. That'd be like a world record if that room went back to what it was. But speaking of Dave, I'm actually glad you went there because you are somebody who has been doing video podcasts for years and years and years now, even before it was like trendy to do video stuff.
2008.
How do you what do you think about Dave, the new Logan Paul of F4W, the video star?
I love it, man. I think it's great. Listen, I genuinely like this is it's so weird doing the shows for F4W for me and doing, obviously Wrestling Observer Live because like I'm a fan of the product. So as someone that grew up, a 20 year long fan of Dave's and Brian's, I think that's awesome. And it's a different perspective. I thought it was great when they started doing more shows. I think the Saturday show with you and Dave is fantastic. I look forward genuinely, and I'm saying that not like a friend like kissing your butt, but I genuinely love the show. Um, I think it's great. It's a great addition. I think people want to see Dave. The show has been a lot better because you're actually engaging and you're seeing each other rather than just hearing each other. I think it's a great. It's changed the show in my opinion.
And look, I think people could have seen the progression here, bringing Matt Men to this channel, bringing Denise to this channel. You all are video focused first, and audio. Not that the audio show isn't good, but it is a video focused show. And then this show, right? This show is also a video focused show. So that was sort of the trend with the channel, and to finally get Dave online, which was, it was an event. But I think it's just great for the
I think it's
website.
fantastic.
It's great for this channel. It's great for subscribers. So I love to see it. And Dave, I think is very engaged. Like he really enjoys it, which is the
Is
big the
he?
big thing too.
Are they doing the show earlier, or are they doing it still at like 2, 3 in the morning?
I think it's been like 11:30ish time frame, which is
Man,
early for them.
poor Nick
Not for you.
Houseman.
You're in bed by then, but yeah, for
Poor
them
Nick
it is.
Houseman in Chicago had to do that show last night
But did you
with
hear
Dave and
him?
Brian. I did.
He was jazzed up, man. That guy had
He
more
was.
energy than anybody.
Listen, I think he was excited to be there with Dave. You know,
Oh
at the
yeah,
end of the day, we all
absolutely.
grew up. By the way, Nick is very good at what he does. I'm not making him seem like he was starstruck, but it's exciting when you do your show with Dave, and same for
Yeah.
me. Whenever he comes on, I'm excited to have him, and I have like 5,000 questions for Dave. I want to just sit there and ask him every Dave. So what happened really in Montreal?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Were there two Ultimate Warriors, Dave?
Were there two Ultimate Warriors, Dave? Can you confirm this? 8-year-old Andrew Zarian needs to know.
All right, so there's some news. There's actually some news that we probably have to talk about, which just dropped earlier today. I started hearing this last night that there were rumors of some NXT cuts that were happening, and the release came out today. PW Insider reported 5 names were released. We'll start from. I'll end with the one that I was very surprised about. But Ru Feng, Demarius Griffin, Erica Yan, Sloane Jacobs, and the one that surprised me was Bodie Hayward. And
Yeah.
I have been very. I've said this on this show. I don't watch NXT anymore because that show was frustrating me, not only from a creative standpoint, but for other reasons. But I thought Bodie Hayward was actually getting a lot better, and he had so much charisma, and they were doing some fun stuff with the Chase University with him. So that
Good
one
body on him,
surprised
good
me.
size.
Well, I mean, he looks like Stone before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he looks like stunning Steve Austin from like 1990, like just visually. Now he's not as thick.
Yeah.
Austin was always more of like a football player build, but that's who he reminded me of, like just visually. And I thought, that crowd loved him. So that was a surprise. But I guess somebody said on Wrestling Observer Live, Brian reported that maybe there was some instances as to why they cut him. But obviously, with this kind of stuff, they could always bring him back if they wanted. Now, playing slightly, I guess, from a different perspective here, and this is what I really wanted to ask you. Since Triple H has come on, they have added talent, brought back Braun Strowman. We just saw it on Friday. Emma, of all people, that was pretty surprising to me. I didn't know if she was going to be on their radar. But
Yeah,
Triple
I'm
H
so
has
disappointed she's not doing the Emelina gimmick, right? We
the
were all looking
bubbles
forward
and
to the
stuff.
Emelina, the bubbles.
but so the just to the fan base, it really likes this because they get to see, maybe there's going to be more people coming back. Dexter Loomis, all these people. But I wonder to the street if that is actually a negative because they know it's a cost. And thus, I wonder if these 5 cuts at NXT were more so to tell the street, like, hey, we're not only adding, like, we're still being really responsible with our budget here. I don't know if it's that big of a deal. Obviously, to us, we're like, oh, these NXT folks don't make a lot of money, but I don't know what that means to people who are because the WWE investors call is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so I
think it is
wonder if
tomorrow.
that was like a visual thing for the call more so than it was that they necessarily needed to cut these people, because to cut them the day before, I don't know, it's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird. I'm all for a theory. But I reached out and I asked them, and they said, "Oh no, this is part of the standard. They assess their developmental talent more often now because they have so much more younger talent there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I don't know the exact reasons, but generally it's okay. We're moving on and come back in 6 months and let's see if we could do it again or whatever. Whatever their protocol is when they release someone, but." A couple of these names, yeah, Bodie surprised me because he obviously has the look that they want, but it's a new company. I mean, it's under new leadership, so I would imagine this is still their standard, releasing people every X amount of months after an evaluation. But I mean, your point, that's interesting too, right?
I mean, I think it to most people, I wonder what Brandon Thurston thinks about it, but it just seems like a little too convenient, right? It's like, oh yeah, they have a business call tomorrow, so these cuts happening right before seems to be interesting timing. But that that will be that business call will be very interesting tomorrow. I wonder how that's going to go. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be very positive. Like they're a money making machine, but just as we go further away from Vince McMahon being a part of this thing, that's more so what my interest is. Like, do they believe that this triumvirate of Nick Khan and Triple H and Stephanie are the right folks to lead this company? And I think they're doing a pretty good job, because at least from the wrestling perspective, Triple H is a giant babyface to most fans here, and I think some of it is smoke and mirrors, but it seems like people are enjoying the product, which is I probably the most important thing, or second most important thing to making money.
Yeah. At the end of the day, isn't that all that matters? People thinking it's a better show, then it becomes a better show. You know what I'm curious about though, Garrett, and this is a great question for the audience too. If this was still a Vince McMahon WWE, how would we be reacting to the television show that we're getting on Mondays, especially Mondays, right? Mondays and Sundays, but Fridays, but definitely Monday. How would the reaction to Raw be? Would the reaction be, wow, my gosh, they've turned it around? Or would it still be, oh, this is the same old, same old? A fresh coat of paint on the same house sometimes goes a long way.
Yeah, I think I lean a little bit more towards I don't lean towards it's the same. What I lean towards is that Triple H has been very smart to undo unpopular things that Vince did. Because if you are trying to appease the fan base, bringing back somebody like, well, actually, it's not even Bray and Braun, because I think the fans were probably thought those guys were a little long in the tooth, but just certain folks who maybe some of the fan base was like, oh, it's unfortunate that they got released. Why did they get released? What did they do wrong? And Triple H is kind of undoing, you have the undo on your keyboard. He's just hitting Command Z on what Vince, has done.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm going back to your favorite word. The optics of the situation is that Triple H is bringing back people who maybe shouldn't have gone in the first place. And if you make Vince the bad guy and you can come in as the babyface, I think that makes the optics of the situation, even more. He comes across as more relatable because it seems like he's listening and he's watching, whereas Vince just seemed like I'm just going to do whatever I want. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah. I agree with you. Listen, we still have not seen the WWE post Vince McMahon. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing still is Vince's, kind of structure and layout that he had in place. So, but now we're starting to see a little bit of the different, right? Braun Strowman coming back. That was obviously an addition here. We've Johnny Gargano coming back. That's an addition, and that's a change in the creative. But I think guys like Roman, that's still the big story here. And are we getting a Vince McMahon plan with the Roman Reigns stuff? Because it's been perfect. I mean, really, and we'll talk about Friday, because I thought that opening segment was fantastic. But is the Roman stuff...
Let's talk about that for sure, because that was so much fun.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't mean to cut you off. We're going to circle back to it, because I want to use that, and we'll talk about the show this weekend, which is which we'll end the show on. But continue to go ahead, because we're going to move to AEW for a second.
Yeah, like the Roman stuff, is that a Vince McMahon project, right? Is the creative that we're getting a Vince McMahon? I mean, obviously, that Paul Heyman's very heavily involved in that stuff, so you're going to get a little bit of a different plan. But how much has that changed? Because that's something that I've asked, and nobody's really going to tell me that. But how much of the Roman stuff has shifted? Because it's still fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. And that is, like, who knows really what Vince's plan was, right? Actually, we do know what Vince's plan was to get to The Rock at WrestleMania. Who knows if the belt was going to be involved? Maybe it wasn't. But that was sort of the long game plan. And now there's options, right? Not saying that CM Punk is going to main event WrestleMania, but that he may not even be ready by. But that's also now sort of
course,
an opportunity that didn't exist, and maybe with Vince McMahon out of the picture, maybe that enables it to happen more so than him. Though from what I remember, he didn't seem to be too fond of one Triple H either. But yeah, that's why I'm so excited for Survivor Series, not because I expect it to be a great show, but it is really that wrinkle that Triple H is adding with the War Game stuff, right? Like, we know that was not what Vince wanted.
Do
Vince
you,
was
do you think
anti-War
Vince was
Games.
like cursing? Or do you think Vince was like, God damn it, Hunter, with this War Games crap? You know, because he never wanted War Games. I think maybe Dave would know this. Like, wasn't Hunter pitching this for years and years, and like Elimination Chamber was like kind of the compromise to like their War Games, you know?
I'm sure that was the story.
I love War Games. I think it's a great concept, and I think it's such a great addition to add some spice to Survivor Series. You know, they had a couple good years when they were doing the brand versus brand stuff, and you were seeing like weird combinations like Nakamura and Hunter going at it. You know, like that was great. That was fantastic stuff. But, you know, it got stale when it doesn't matter anymore. When you no longer get these, wow, they're going to touch. You know, this is the first time. Once that's out, it's done. Now you need to restart and come up with something else.
Yes, absolutely. And there was a story. I don't know if this was true or not. I couldn't figure out who had posted this, but there was something where Triple H was saying, yeah, you know, I don't know if we're going to do the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Was that true, or was that someone making something up? But they wanted to use that match more as like an end to a feud than as just like a standalone pay-per-view is what I read. But I couldn't verify what that information was from.
I gotta read what it is, because the last couple of weeks has been chaotic in my life, but good chaos, not bad chaos. But I have heard numerous times that there are a lot of people in key positions that are very much against naming the pay-per-views after the gimmick match, and it takes away from the importance of the match, because now you have two of everything and you got three of everything. Sometimes you have, you know, sometimes the whole pay-per-view could be a cell match. You know, they've done crazy stuff, but I know for a fact that people want to reshuffle how these things work. You know, one of the concepts is, should Money in the Bank be a WrestleMania match? Should it be a pay-per-view? You know, they're trying to make Money in the Bank into a mega match, mega pay-per-view show or a PLE, but I mean, what's the right move here? I don't like the gimmick pay-per-views. I don't like the pay-per-view to be called Hell in a Cell, because you're telling me I'm going to get it more than once, right? So it becomes a thing now all the time. But if you remove the Hell in a Cell and you make it an attraction on a random show to add some, you know, some hype to a match, I'm all for that. I never liked the pay-per-view model of being, you know, this is the Money in the Bank and this is the only time you do it, or this is a Hell in a Cell and this is the only time you do it. I kind of like the fact that you're now locked into that.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And it makes it seem, and this is another thing, right? Triple H is undoing something that Vince McMahon was so adamant about year after year after year, even when it didn't work, because those pay-per-view buys for these pay-per-views are just going down and down and down and down. And now, you know, we can undo some of that stuff. And that's where Triple H baby faces himself to me too, because I'm like, yes, that makes more logical sense than what we have previously been watching and being hit over the head with. Okay, let's move on to AEW quickly. We'll come back to WWE because I do want to talk about the show this weekend. The show this weekend is pretty intriguing just on what some of these matches are. But okay, so let's talk about a little bit about AEW, because on Dynamite, we saw the little video of the Elite, and this is the first time they have been promoted since the All Out show, and this is the first sign that things are going to sort of start getting back to normal. First off, what did you think of the video? Because I was trying to come up with some ideas, like, how do you even bring these guys back when you didn't even tell us that they were gone? Like, so they're leaning into it a little bit with the little bit of the meta humor in the video. But what did you think of it? And then let's talk about after, what are some ideas in getting them back into the swing of things?
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to do it. They haven't mentioned a thing on TV. They didn't even mention why CM Punk was no longer world champion. So if you don't follow the story, like, I'm thinking like Andrew as like a 5-year-old, right? When I'm watching wrestling, and I'm at SummerSlam, and I see the match made in hell and the match made in heaven, right? And Ultimate Warrior runs behind the curtain, and I never see him again. I had no idea what happened. So
Yes.
obviously there's a portion that doesn't know what happened, and they're not really looking for an explanation. They see it as it's wrestling and something changed. But a lot of people know what happened. They're gonna have to address it. They already addressed some of it on that video promo, the vignette that they put out, where they're disappearing, they're gone. So when they come back, are they just gonna say we left and now we're back, or are they gonna go into the details? I'm really curious to know. But it's funny that they got to show up like now, like this week or next week, right? To build up to a pay-per-view.
Yeah, soon, right?
I mean, how do you not put them on the pay-per-view? You have to. So it has to be like this week or next week.
Yeah, it's got to be soon, and I guess that's a little bit of my worry, because the easiest thing to do is just go, oh, they lost these trios belts and they should get them back, or at least they should get a chance to get them back, and that's fine. But I almost don't feel like that's big enough for this moment. Like, when do you have an opportunity to reintroduce one of your top acts, right? Like, you have this, it's been taken away, and that was bad. Now, how do we make a negative into a positive? Do we want to bring them back in a big way, or do we not? Because then if we do, we sort of have to explain what happened, and it doesn't look like Tony Khan wants to explain what happened.
Here's a scenario, right? Like, I agree with you. I don't think the trio's positioning is the right way to go. Unless you're trying to kind of realign whatever, put your train back on the tracks, unless that's the plan, and the plan was for them to hold the title. But, I mean, you could do something interesting where, they win the trios titles, Max is celebrating, and here comes Kenny to be like, hey, I want my title back. You could do something like that. You need to fluff that top position. By losing Punk in that top positioning, you have a big hole. So are you going to use Kenny Omega in a trios title, or are you going to put him back in that main slot? That's a big question.
Where do you sit on this thought about MJF possibly maybe turning babyface at some point? Where do you sit on this? Because there are some people who are like, I think it's interesting, especially if you want to get hot. And there are others who are just like, no way. The character works the way it does. You screw with it, it may not work as good.
That's a great question. I think he's staying heel. I think he's kind of baby facing everybody to MF them later. Like, that's how I see it.
And he's just gonna take a choke slam from Morrissey as a way to fool us.
Yeah, I don't. I'm a little nervous on how they're gonna do him. I am, because he's now. I know that the story was going to be him and Punk. That was supposed to be the story. Punk dropping it to Max after winning the title back after a couple of months, and then maybe Punk would have gone away for a little bit. I don't know how they would have positioned that, but, is MJF a world champion right now for them? Do you see him as the next world champion, and what does that mean to you? He's not a guy you see wrestle on TV every week. He's never been that guy on
He's
AEW
not like
television.
Moxley, who wrestles every week.
He's not like Moxley, which is the world champion wrestling every week. They've been very careful on how they use Max, and it's benefited them big time. But now, the story is the chase. He's the guy that's kind of looming in the shadows, waiting for his shot. Now he's going to get the shot, and let's say he beats Mox. Mox goes away for a little bit. But that poor man has to take some time off. I mean, this guy was supposed to take off months ago. He never got a chance. So, I mean, where do you go? Who's the challenger? Are you going back to Hangman? Are you introducing somebody else? Do you introduce Kenny in this mix? I'm looking forward to post Full Gear to see how they're going into the new year, because now, listen, you got your guys back, minus CM Punk. He wasn't going to be back anyway. So now this is whatever plan you would have had if he was still injured. Where do you go?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fascinating. And then that the pay-per-view after November is supposed to be in the Bay Area. That's all what we've heard.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in the Bay Area. So what is it called? Revolution, I guess is what it's called.
Yeah, February.
New Japan is running a show in San Jose on February the 18th, which is a Saturday. And I believe the Revolution show is going to be on a Sunday because football season will be over. And Tony likes running Sundays when they're not head-to-head football. I don't know if that means that that's the date, but it would seem to be good business with a partner to kind of have, Wednesday Dynamite, Friday Rampage, Saturday New Japan, Sunday AEW pay-per-view. Kind of interesting, if that is the way that it's being set up, because you have people on AEW who also work New Japan stuff. Like maybe Moxley could work a match or something on that show. But I have already told my wife, if that is the case, I'm just like taking a few days off of work. I'm just going to be gone a lot. We may maybe have a barbecue hosting people who are out here. So yeah, that's going to be like the crazy wrestling week where the Bay Area finally gets to host something.
Love it. No, I'm very curious what AEW does, because they've had, 2021, even though it was a successful year for them, gross profit wise and viewership wise, they were up, I think like 10% year over year or whatever the number was. I feel that they need to now have a little bit of a shakeup, right? That mid card needs to be shaken up a little bit. Guys like Andrade, he's a bad example, right? Because he got into a fight. But the guys like Pac, that whole group of unbelievable talent, you need to elevate somebody up there to kind of change the mix on that top tier. Because for the longest time, what has it been? It's been Moxley, Hangman, Kenny, Punk, Max, and then insert, Jericho every now and then. So, so you got to do something. You got to add somebody else if you're removing somebody. I'm curious who they elevate to that level.
Yeah, it seems like they've had some opportunities with guys like Darby, right? We've seen Darby. Darby had Punk's first match, right? That should have been the point where he just falls into that like main event slot, but that is no longer the case. We heard the same thing about Jungle Boy for years, pretty much since the beginning of AEW's existence, that, he was kind of, we need to get him ready so he can be a main eventer. And now it's several years later.
Something they do really well, and like I'm looking at this as marketing, right? Like in the eyes of a marketer. Something they do really well is create a little microcosm of influence for their talent. Like Darby is a very much well-liked fan favorite, right? He is an attraction for them. People want to see Darby wrestle, but he's not in the main card. Another person would be Hook, right? On a little bit of a lower level. He is an attraction. There's something that you want to see about him. Wardlow also, up until, he's kind of cooled off. So you have...
I guess you're right. That he should have been the one, right? Wardlow.
He should have been the one, yeah. So he should have been the one. But you have guys that have a larger than maybe expected following for somebody that is not in the top tier, that you could easily elevate and move up. This is something that they've been able to do that WWE has been struggling in the last, 15 years or so, to create these little buzzes for these guys. They can't make the same mistake. A guy like, Darby's one, Jungle Boy's one, Hook. I don't know what they're going to do with Hook now, but, he's another one. But Wardlow is a great example of a guy you elevated. He got naturally over. He's very impressive. Where do you go now?
Yeah. 100%.
Give him a shot. Put him somewhere. I think with
the problem
title,
is,
it may be interesting.
Well, the problem is you put him up in that top level, and unless you make him the world champion, then you have to beat him. And that I think that's the
and you can't
hesitance
beat him.
there. Yeah. I will give them credit. The Acclaim have been awesome, and they definitely got up leveled
in-house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a great example, right? Naturally, organically got over in-house. They didn't have the influence outside from WWE or NXT or someplace else. They really were a core. Those two guys have been around in the indies for a while. Northeastern wrestlers. I've seen them everywhere here. But now they are a top act. You got to keep it going.
Yep, you do.
So.
All right, one more thing about AEW, and then we'll switch back to WWE. They have this match with Jericho and a former ROH champion. Now, I think a lot of us are confused if it has to be a former world champion or if it could just be any champion, tag team champion, whatever the other belts that you want to remember. Who do you think this possibly could be?
Jamie Noble, former Ring of Honor world champion.
Is Jamie Noble still
Yeah.
wrestling?
No,
he is.
No. He
I thought he's like what? I don't know. I thought he's like working for WWE or something.
45 now. I don't know. You have a lot of options. I mean, look at the list of former Ring of Honor. I believe it's world champions.
Okay.
So that's what I believe. I believe it's former Ring of Honor world champions. But this list is big. I mean, you're not going to do Jay Briscoe because they're not going to have him on TV, I guess, right? Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards, two guys, Jerry Lynn. I think Jerry Lynn would be a fantastic Jericho match. Former Ring of Honor world champion.
And
right?
Jericho dropped him on his head a couple weeks ago.
And Jericho dropped him on his head. He's 60. I don't know. He's 59, I should say. I don't want to age him, but can he do anything? I don't know. I don't know what his condition is.
Okay. This is one that came to my mind, but I don't think it's happening. This guy was I know he was a tag team champion. I don't think he was a world champion. What about Colt Cabana?
Oh man, that'd be interesting, right?
I think it's too soon. Like it'll just create more,
ignite things a little bit more.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like Tony wants to do that, but I think that would pop the crowd like crazy, right? Because the crowd knows the story.
Jericho said any champion, so I'm wrong there. I was under the impression it was only world champions.
So Brian and Dave last night went over this, and it seems like the marketing has been world champion, but Jericho said any champion. So I think that's where the mix-up is trying to figure out, is Jericho wrong or is the marketing wrong?
Maybe he meant like anybody, any of the champions. It could have been one of those. But this list is interesting. I mean, they got Matt Taven. You could do a Matt Taven thing. PCO. I would love to see
would be crazy.
Oh my gosh. But I don't want him as PCO. I want him as Carl Ouellette. I want him back. I want Carl Ouellette. I don't want PCO.
That would be hilarious.
You know what? He's only 54. Can you believe that? That man is only 54 years old?
So I've been watching 97 and 98 Raw for the last 2 years for the Fight Game Media Patreon. And there's a moment where the Quebecers come back for like a month. And that dude is doing today's style of wrestling.
Yes.
Inside a WWF ring. In those
that match with Bret Hart, right? Remember that early match with Bret Hart, and that they used in the video, like in the opener for Raw. That match, I mean, those two were really. I mean, they were doing some crazy stuff. Going through the second rope. I mean, it was stuff that you really didn't see, especially guys like Bret Hart or Carl Ouellette. You never saw these guys do this stuff. It'd be fantastic. I'd love to see him and Jericho. That'd be a wacky match.
It would be crazy. And my first thought was, would Jericho really want to do that? Because like it kind of puts him a little bit in danger. But then, didn't this guy also wrestle Nick Gage on TV? So he's up for
national television. Yeah. How nuts! I mean, I got to tell you though that I was at work, right? I was at a dinner with clients, and I'm sitting at a bar. And I'm watching it happen on TV.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, this is nuts. And I look at the guy next to me. He's like, what's nuts? I'm like, do you see what's happening on TV? He's like, what? I'm like, that guy's got a pizza cutter out. And he's like, dude, and everybody just stopped at the bar and we were just staring at it like lunatics. Like, what the hell's going on? Wild.
All right, let's get back to WWE here because I wanted to talk about this Sami Zayn thing. It was the buzz around Twitter and all the places where people talk about wrestling on Friday night because Sami Zayn broke Roman Reigns on live television. Now, were you laughing as much as everyone else was when they were watching? I didn't get to watch it until Sunday, but there was something wrong with the Hulu version of SmackDown. Like, there's something going on with Hulu. Like I can't find it, and then it's there, and then it was the FS1 thing, but I did finally watch it. What'd you think of that whole thing?
Oh, I thought that opener was, I mean, just so good. I was not for Sami being involved with them. right? I really wasn't. I thought it was going to make it into a comedy thing, and I thought them being so serious worked, but I was dead wrong. I'll be the first to say Sami is so good. He's so talented. I would imagine everybody's loving it, but it works. The whole
Yeah.
thing is working. The deception within the whole crew there. Shockingly, I didn't expect it to work this well with Sami, and it's far surpassed all my expectations.
Like, who gets to formally make you an oos? Like, at GCW show when Brian and Filthy Tom faced off against each other in that mixed tag.
Yeah.
Jacob Fatu was there in the back, and we were hanging out with him and just chit-chatting. And he kept calling me oos, so I just figured like anybody could make anybody a noose. He didn't even say honorary.
I took an ancestry
he just kept
test.
calling me oos. Okay.
I took an ancestry test. You know what I discovered? We're all The Rock's cousins. Every one of us on this planet. Everybody is The Rock's cousin. You could be a noose. Everybody could be a noose.
Yeah, but I guess because Sami is a little bit more fair-skinned and he's got some red hair, that makes him stand out as maybe not being an oos. But now that Roman, said that he may take the honorary off, that I guess that's where the fish out of water becomes the Uso,
so
which is
really
cool.
It's been so good. And you know what? I'm so happy for Sami, right? It's so good to see him in a position like this, and it's working so well.
How long do you think they can run with this?
Will it get annoying? I would imagine probably to the end of the year, right? Maybe something happens maybe something happens where he costs Roman the title. And then you lead to Roman, kicking his ass, and then here comes Dwayne.
Interesting. That's an interesting way to build for that.
Do that.
So here's my thought process in this entire thing was the reason, much like you, why I didn't know how far I wanted to see them go with this is because I'm always looking for what the out is. Like, what is the end game here? And as we know, Sami Zayn is not beating Roman Reigns for a title. So the fans are not going to get like the ultimate thing out of this. But you could have Sami and Kevin Owens beat Jay and Jimmy for the titles. And I think that would be good enough, right? But then how you get there is what's so intriguing. And I wonder if they have circled, maybe in pencil, as JR says, Kevin and Sami versus the Usos at WrestleMania or something like that. Can you run this thing for another 5 months before you get to WrestleMania? That'll be interesting.
I think they can. I really think they can because they have something really special with this group. I know that they slowed down the Kevin Owens thing because he was going to get involved in this.
Yeah.
Early on. I mean, they were leading up to that. We all saw it on TV. So if you slow it down enough and you come up with something creative, and now something happens at Rumble, Kevin Owens comes to his help, and now you set up a title match between those two at WrestleMania. They win the title at WrestleMania. What a great moment, for those two, considering their past of murdering each other in every match that they've had. I think it's a great. It's an organic story that people will feel good about. Instead of feeling like, I don't really want to see this. Like, I want to see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against, the Usos. I would love to see that at WrestleMania. I think that would be an unbelievable match.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it would be a really good match. And B, these are two of the most valuable guys that WWE has who don't have to have a title attached to them, who don't have to be the world champion and still have value. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And it's because there's so much trust from the fan base in those guys performing. Like, when Kevin is in something, when Sami is in something, it's going to be good. It's going to be quality because those guys are so good at what they do. There's no sandbagging on segments when it's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
You know what I got? I'll lay it out, okay? Something happens. Something happens that it leads to Roman giving Sami a match, right? To teach him a lesson. He didn't listen to the tribal chief, and now we have a match. It's a non-title match, and he's gonna kick his ass, and the Usos. It's gonna be like an initiation of sorts, right? He's beating him up. Somehow, Sami does a roll-up, the most devastating move in professional wrestling. A schoolboy, 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 gets him. But the Usos cut him off, and beatdown starts. And here comes Kevin Owens for the save. That's my plan. That's how I see it.
It could be as simple as that. Like I don't really think they could. I don't really think they could go wrong here as long as they don't overthink it, because that's what's been great about it. The whole thing has been so simplistic. You just can't wait to see these guys together, and that's what's been so good about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a women's tag title change last night. Alexa Bliss and Asuka beat Dakota Kai and Io Sky on Raw. I wonder, because immediately I saw a lot of people on Twitter going, oh, Damage Control. Gosh, I can't believe they beat him already. They haven't been successful. This is just Triple H beating Vince. And I wonder if it was just to set up this match and the heels get their win back here on Crown Jewel. But Alexa Bliss and Asuka being the tag team champion, that's fine. They keep the feud going. I would think, though, that the heels, like, there's still some stuff there. I don't know why they would beat them now, other than to have them get the belt back fairly quickly. But what did you think about that thing on Raw? The main event on Raw.
I don't know. I'm curious why they did the title change. I actually liked what they were doing with the tag title for a little bit. Maybe this leads to something else. I have no idea why they did the change. It felt like maybe it was to do something, a little bit. I don't know if that was the reason. What do you think this is going to lead to something where maybe you don't want to beat if Naomi and Sasha are coming back, we got Trinity and her to come back. Are you going to, maybe this is an easier title to put on, they face them, they beat them, and then you set up something else between the young up and coming team and the person that never lost the title, really?
See, I think that would make me think what they did by putting the title on the baby faces. It would make me think that maybe Sasha and Naomi aren't coming back, because that's what I had hoped was going to be this big payoff with Damage Control, right? But maybe that's also a way for them to get us to think that they aren't coming back, and then they do come back. Well, I mean, it'll whatever it is. I'm not going to put a fork in it and say, okay, like, I'm over, like, this, they did the wrong thing here. I mean, who knows what's going to happen still. They got the rematch on the pay-per-view this weekend, so we'll have to see where it goes. But I just saw a lot of real negative reaction to the babyfaces winning the title last night, so I was kind of interested if you had the same reaction.
Yeah, big time. People were not happy about it. They didn't want that title change to happen, which didn't bother me as much. I sometimes tend to just stand back and see what happens a little bit before I jump to, an automatic reaction. That's terrible. I want to give it like at least a week to see what they're planning.
Yeah, totally. All right, we got about, 12 minutes, 13 minutes before Lance gets mad at us and asks us to hurry up. Let's talk about this show. What time does this show start in the morning this weekend?
Saudi show? For me, I think it's 1 o'clock.
Okay, so that'd be 10 o'clock for me then? Is it 10 or 9?
Yeah, but I don't know if you saw the news.
Pre-show's at 9.
I don't know if you saw the news, but there is a terror threat against the U.S. and Saudi Arabia from Iran.
I did see something about that.
Yeah. So I don't know if that would play any kind of part. I'm speculating here, and I really shouldn't. But, I just saw that pop up on my screen. So, I mean, that's another piece to add to this.
Yes, I did see that. I mean, I didn't see, I didn't read into it, but I did see that right before we went on air. Okay, so
it's 1 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, so 10 a.m. for me. So it's like the morning with WWE for me. Breakfast with WWE. So, not to make light of the news that you just mentioned, let's just talk about the show as if it's happening.
I'm sorry, I lied to you. Crown Jewel begins at 12 p.m. Eastern. It's a
Okay, so
12
9.
p.m. show.
Yeah, so 9
9
for
your
me.
time.
So wow,
Yeah.
that is earlier. That's going to be
Yeah,
coffee
sorry.
with WWE for me.
Love these.
Oh,
Love these shows.
okay, so again, I don't want to make light of the news you just mentioned, but let's just assume that the show happens or it's going to happen at some point. And let's just talk about it. I will, just as an aside here, I will be doing a post-game show, a post-event show on YouTube. So on this YouTube, F4W, through the Fight Game podcast brand. And so originally, like you and I had talked about doing something. I know you're busy, so instead I'm going to do it with the Fight Game podcast. No John LaRocca because his internet sucks and he can't do trustworthy video. So I'll get somebody to join me on Saturday, and we're going to go up live right after the pay-per-views or the premium live event is over, and we'll do an hour of post game, and then we'll also put it up in podcasts. So you'll get 2 Fight Game podcasts this week. All right, let's talk about this show because it is the only. Now, people are going to have their political views of this show, and I respect all of them. But one thing WWE does with this show is they take some chances with some main events, right? We've seen over the years, they're going to bring back an old veteran who can barely walk, and they're going to have a terrible match, but they're drawing a little bit of a different live audience. They're trying to make the Prince happy with some of these matches. Logan Paul against Roman Reigns, in my opinion, does not happen unless it's on this show. Like, I don't think they would have put this match on if it was the Survivor Series, let's say. So that's one of the things that I kind of like about this show is they just kind of take chances. We saw Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez, right? As bad as that was. But what do you think about Logan Paul? What do you think about Logan Paul in the main event of this show with the gimmick? And this is the part that I don't like about the build. He's got metal pins in his hands, which makes his punches stronger. And Roman cannot
Lex Luger
get
gimmick.
hit in the face. That's exactly what it is, right? They're going back to 1993.
Yeah, the Lex Luger, the foreign object in Lex's arm from that
from that
crash.
Steel plates in his arm from the motorcycle crash.
Bobby Heenan screaming, "That's a foreign object!" I'm intrigued to see what Logan Paul could do. I don't watch their content. I know a lot of people don't like them, but they're kind of out of my age group of content consumption. But I gotta say, I'm very impressed by him. He's committed to this. He's worked hard at this. I mean, both Paul brothers are becoming, mega superstars in everything that they're doing right now. It's amazing, right? One of them started on Disney, right? Were they both on Disney?
I don't know how it started. Actually.
Yeah, one of them. I think they started off with Disney, and I think Logan started doing Vines, and that kind of blew up.
I remember the Vine stuff.
But, like Saudi Arabia is big on this. They have that Saudi Vision 2030 stuff that they're doing where they want to make Saudi Arabia into a entertainment and destination capital, right? For tourism and events and things like that. They are very, I guess, progressive for a non-progressive country to get tourism in that country because they know that that's going to be the lifespan of evolving the country rather than becoming just a oil refiner. You're now expanding into arts and media and things like that, and kind of westernizes you a little bit. But I don't know if this match could have happened at Survivor Series. I think you have a good point there. I don't know. Under Vince, I don't think it would have happened, but he did a great job, man. He did great in every match that he's had. I haven't seen Logan Paul have a misstep yet, and that's something.
He's a good athlete.
He's a great athlete. Yeah, he's a very good athlete. He understands wrestling. I mean, even in the ring, in talking to people that, professional wrestlers, they're like, he's not bad. Obviously, he's practicing the same thing over and over again. I don't know if he could call a match if something goes haywire and now Roman's like calling spots. I don't know how well he'll do in that, but, it says something that they trust him enough to be in a ring with Roman Reigns, their world champion. And that, I cannot see Triple H or anybody jeopardizing their cash cow.
Yeah.
by
Yeah,
putting him in the
absolutely.
ring of someone that's not really well trained. They believe that he's very well trained, and for Roman to take the match as well, it says that he trusts Logan Paul.
Yeah. What valuable Pokemon card is he going to come out with around his neck on this show?
Dude, I wish I kept all my brother's like Charizards and all of his Pokemon cards. I just called him. Do you know the market for Pokemon cards now, especially like that first generation of Pokemon cards? It's through the freaking roof. It is the new, like, when we were growing up, to get that Michael Jordan rookie card, it was such a big deal. For these kids now growing up to get a whatever, a hologram Charizard. That's the only one I know. I don't know any of them. I know Doug Trio, right? I know Doug Trio. I know Charizard. I know Pikachu. That's about it. That's all I know.
My stepdaughter was Pikachu for Halloween.
It's still in. It's still big. So I don't know what he's gonna have. But how much is that that Pokemon that he has?
I don't know.
$500,000 or something insane.
I just thought it was crazy. Walks around with it's like he's it's his version of a Rolex, right?
Hold on.
Rolex. Uh-oh. Do I do the Dave thing? Where did you go? Remember, did you see that thing where Brian left the screen and Dave yelled at him? Michael Jordan cologne.
All right. So, if he's going to walk around with a Pokemon around his neck, I could very easily walk around with a Dennis Rodman 1997 Chicago Bulls basketball card.
There you go. Dude,
how about this one? Look, this is a hologram. How about this Jordan? I could wear this Jordan around my neck.
Yeah, you need to put that thing in not in a plastic sheet. You need to put it in a better protector there, buddy.
I know. You know what? They're all worthless. They're all worthless, these cards.
No,
they're worth like $2 each.
If you go to eBay and look up Jordan hologram, it may be worth $25 or something.
Yeah.
But before so the audio people didn't get to see that, but Andrew pulled out basically a binder of basketball cards. But what about the thing in the insert of the binder, the Michael Jordan cologne?
The Michael Jordan cologne. I still have the basketball that cologne came with.
Wow.
We got it at Macy's. You got the Michael Jordan tote bag, and you got the basketball if you bought the cologne.
Michael Jordan cologne, not the best smelling cologne for such a big product that it was when it came out. It reminded me of Proper 12. You Conor McGregor's Proper 12. Have you ever had that?
I have, yeah. I have.
Did you like it?
It was okay. Not my favorite, but it was fine.
So John Moxley, he tells this joke. I've heard him say it to me, on a show I did with him, and to other people, that he was at an airport and he was, he saw the Proper 12. He's like, "Can I get I'll get a shot of that?" And he goes, "Does anybody get it? Like, does anybody order it?" And the bartender goes, "Yeah, once." Yeah, it's not a whiskey that you go back to, I guess.
It's not terrible, but it's no Pappy Van Winkle, I'll tell you that. It's not a Pappy. It's not even a Jameson, in my opinion. I'd rather stick to my standard Jameson if I'm doing shots.
All right, what other matches are you intrigued in? Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, the rematch from the Royal Rumble. There's Usos versus the Brawling Brutes, which should be a fun match. Bianca and Bayley, last woman standing. There's a cage match with Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross. So some pretty interesting matches here. Is there any one that you kind of have your finger on, like, this is the one that I'm waiting for?
Yeah, I want to see Lesnar and Lashley for sure. I'm excited for that. The OC and the Judgment Day, I think that's pretty cool to see that happen. Maybe they do something interesting there. One thing that I'm curious about, and it's Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre. I don't think Karrion got over with the audience as much as I thought he would.
I think he's done,
coming
back.
Like,
to me, the character is so dead. I can't.
But I don't know why.
I get why they're pushing it. Like, I think they believe in it, but I just see the reaction he gets. I see the look on his face. The look on his face is, I know that I'm not where I need to be, and I'm not exactly sure how to get there. That's what I'm just watching this dude, and I feel bad for him because, when you're in that spot, when you're in that position, they have faith in you. And I don't know if it's even his fault that he's not delivering.
I don't think it
character.
No.
So
I don't think
whatever
he's
it
done
is.
anything wrong. Yeah, it's whatever it is. Maybe it was too much at the same time. He came back. Braun Strowman came back. Bray Wyatt took a lot of that away from even Braun Strowman. Like, I have no interest in Strowman being back now. I think that kind of took it away. Gargano came back. So you got a lot of these fan favorites. Karrion was never tested on that main roster. It might have been better if you just put him on that, had him go to NXT and do something in NXT and move Braun Breaker up. At least get Karrion settled in with the fan base again. I tweeted. I texted somebody over there, and I didn't make a joke. I was like, what's going on there? He wrote, he should have never grew his effing hair back. That's what somebody wrote to me.
But the thing about
he was making a joke out of it, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's true. He doesn't look as menacing with the hair. But the thing about it is, they put the entire act back together. They took away the goofy Raw stuff. So this is kind of like a put up or shut up, right? They're like, now we've given you the whole package. Now there's really no excuses, I guess, in their mind. Now, I'm just trying to think of how they may be looking at it. But anyways, So like I said, I will be back on Saturday. After that show is over, we'll have a live Fight Game podcast on YouTube, and then the audio will also be up later that Saturday. And then, I think that's going to be it for us. What do you got for Mat Men on Friday?
We got actually we got some cool stuff we're going to talk about. I'm trying to do something different on the show. So we're gonna. I want to bring back the what ifs at the end of the show. We used to do these what if segments, like what if this happened, what if that happened, and it kind of ties into this little series that I'm doing with Matt Ryan that we're planning on doing. And the idea is the butterfly effect. Right? All these mega things have happened in the world of professional wrestling, but what were the things that happened, and what was the outcome of those things? Bret Hart, obviously, great example for Sunday when we do Observer. Bret Hart, Montreal, 25 years ago. If Montreal never happened, what would have the WWE in 1999, 1998 look like? A very different company. So a lot of interesting stuff to go into. We're planning on doing that.
Oh, that sounds really cool. All right, so Andrew and I will be back next Tuesday. And you got Mat Men, you got Fight Game. Dave and I may be doing something. We're not sure. He's got some stuff going on Friday, but
don't mess up my Saturday shower schedule. That's the plan. I put you guys on, and I go in the shower, and I'm talking to you while I'm in the shower. I'm like, yeah, Garrett, I agree with you. Like, do you know how many times Dave is like trying to remember something? I'm like, oh, it was whatever. Like, I'll scream it out loud. I'm having a full. So it's a party in there. I'm telling you,
it's all on him. I'm ready. He's just got some interviews to do, I think. So, well, I'm hopeful because I love doing that show. But and we finally on video. We made it on video last week too. So
fantastic.
All right, for Andrew, I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.